President John, guests and members. Well, we've certainly had some cold weather in the last few weeks. This year could well be called the year of the brass monkey. Being out in the cold does not hold a candle to being in here and enjoying your company today. Following an email which came as a bolt out of the blue, I learnt I was your sergeant today, and so Bob's your uncle. Let's get down to brass tacks. I'm here to extract your money. I'll try not to get your goat. Now, you may have noticed that I spoke quite a lot of cliches just now, using common phrases we all hear and use from time to time. And the reason is one of my interests, has been for many years, is etymology, the study of the origins of words and phrases. In fact, I was the guest speaker at this Rotary Club on that topic many, many years ago. Today, we're going to have a short quiz. I'm going to put to you some well-known sayings, and let's see how well you can guess the origin. You can pay according to what interesting pieces of information you pick up along the way. In studying the origins of words and phrases, one soon learns that there is often no one simple explanation as to how a particular phrase came into being. Professional etymologists can't agree very often among themselves. So sometimes we have to be content with what is a probable explanation. I said I hoped my session would not create bedlam. Well, so I'll ask you first, the origin of the word bedlam. Does it have anything to do with a room in the house, in particular the bedroom, gardening and flower beds, or does it relate to a London priory which became a hospital? You'll be aware that Bedlam means mayhem. It comes from the name Bethlehem. I heard that down there. The Hospital of St Mary of Bethlehem, a London priory which was later turned into a mental asylum, and the name became altered over the years and then became a term for other asylums. And there you have it, Bedlam. Eavesdrop, does it have something to do with an early listening device, building architecture, or the story of Adam and Eve? To eavesdrop, to listen to a conversation, specifically to stand within the area under the eaves where the water drops by a window to listen to a conversation. Now that explanation won't come as a bolt from the blue. Okay, what is the origin of that expression, a bolt from the blue? Does it have something to do with a malfunctioning fountain pen? Is it part of an early firearm, or is it to do with the weather? Well, it means, as we know, an unexpected event such as a bolt of lightning would be in a clear blue sky. All right, things are getting a bit harder now, so let's get down to brass tacks. Now, where does that come from? Is it revenue gathering in the Industrial Revolution? Is it to do with carpet laying? Or is it related to a shop fitting? I'm sure you'll be familiar with a shop counter with a measuring strip built into the edge of it for measuring cloth. Once upon a time, it would consist of a series of brass tacks about 1 foot apart. When you started getting down to the brass tacks, you would be talking business and potentially making a sale. I used the phrase of comparison, it doesn't really hold a candle. Now, it doesn't really hold a candle. Is it to do with the first electric light bulb, apprentices and servants, or does it have a connection to horse-drawn hearses? Well, it was once a servant's or apprentice's job to hold the lamp, a candle, while his master worked, or indeed to light the way anywhere. And if you were not considered fit enough to do that menial or undemanding job, you would be considered rather useless. Hence the reason we say something or someone can't hold a candle to someone or someone else, or something else. So what do you know about the expression, Bob's your uncle? You've heard that saying before, I'm sure. Does it relate to the 3rd Marquess of Salisbury, Scouting and Bob a Job Week, or Robert Peel, the founder of the London Metropolitan Police? Well, Bob's your uncle comes from the 1880s when Arthur Balfour was appointed Chief Secretary for Northern Ireland. The Prime Minister at the time was the 3rd Marquess of Salisbury, otherwise known as Robert Gascoigne Cecil. Now, Robert, or Bob, was Arthur Balfour's uncle, and it was a case of nepotism. He got the job because Bob was his uncle. Okay, where does the word rival or rivals come from? Is it connected to cornfields, farm machinery, or waterways? Rivals are literally people living on opposite sides of a stream. Often territorial disputes made them rivals. Interestingly, river comes to us through a slightly different lineage and originally meant the banks of the stream rather than the water itself. So when we reach the banks of the river, we have arrived. Interesting connection. Okay, where does the term intoxicated originate? Is it to do with the name of an early medicinal drug, connected to a Mediterranean type of food, or archery? Archery has given us a number of words. Archery was once more than a sport. It was a way of catching food, also called toxophilie. It was a means of defense, it was a way of war, and the arrows were poisonous. Archery is sometimes called toxophilie. An archer can be called a toxophilite. The Greek word for bow was toxin. The arrows containing the poison were toxic, and if you got hit by a toxic arrow, you would be literally intoxicated. Now, where does the expression to get someone's goat come from? Is it related to a corruption of the word coat? Is it connected to stables and the housing of horses? Is it related to barbers and hairdressing? For some reason, it's been considered that to keep a horse calm in the stable, especially before a race, it's good practice to keep a goat in the stable as well. Apparently, the presence of a goat is a calming influence. If I got the goat and took it away, I would be upsetting the horse and the owner of the horse. I would get their goat. I talked at the start about brass monkey weather. It was a reference to the phrase to freeze the balls of a brass monkey. Where does that come from? Is it connected with early warships? Something to do with pawn shop signs or the human male anatomy? It's accepted by most etymologists that the origin is on early ships which carried cannons on their decks. Also on the deck was a brass plate called a monkey. The purpose of this brass monkey was to store the cannonballs, which would be stacked on it in little dimples on the brass plate. When ships traveled through very cold climates, the plates would often freeze and contract, and so the cannonballs wouldn't stay in place, they'd fall off. Hence the cold weather would end up freezing the balls off a brass monkey. So, I hope you've been entertained and I've given you something to think about. Lots of money in the plate, please. Thank you.